It was a chilly October evening when Officer Sam Reynolds received the call. The small town of Pineville was usually quiet, especially during the fall, but tonight was different. A local woman, Mrs. Henderson, had reported strange noises coming from the forest behind her house. It wasn't the first time she'd made such a call, but Sam felt a sense of unease he couldn't shake. Sam grabbed his flashlight and radio, heading out into the darkening woods. The dense forest always felt a bit eerie at night, but tonight it seemed even more oppressive. The moonlight barely penetrated the thick canopy, casting long, twisting shadows on the ground. As he ventured deeper, the sounds of civilization faded, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. Sam's breath formed clouds in the cold air as he walked, each step crunching softly on the forest floor. He had walked this path many times before, but tonight everything felt different. The trees seemed to close in around him, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. After about 15 minutes of walking, Sam heard a low, guttural growl. He stopped, shining his flashlight around, but saw nothing. The sound came again, closer this time, sending a chill down his spine. He drew his gun, feeling a bit foolish but unable to ignore the primal fear rising within him. "Is anyone out there?" he called, his voice echoing through the trees. There was no response, just an eerie silence that seemed to swallow his words. He continued forward, his senses on high alert. The growling stopped, replaced by the sound of twigs snapping underfoot but not his own. "Who's there?" Sam demanded, turning quickly to shine his light behind him. The beam caught nothing but trees and shadows. His heart pounded in his chest as he realized he wasn't alone. Someone or something was following him. He moved faster, trying to shake the feeling of being watched. The snapping of twigs grew louder, more frequent. It was as if whatever was following him was toying with him, staying just out of sight. Sam's mind raced, thoughts of local legends and ghost stories he'd heard as a child flooding back. Stories of the Watcher, a malevolent spirit said to haunt these woods, seeking revenge on those who trespassed on its land. Suddenly, the forest opened up into a small clearing, and Sam found himself standing before an old, abandoned cabin. He had never seen it before, despite patrolling these woods for years. The cabin looked ancient, its wooden walls rotting and overgrown with moss. A sense of dread washed over him, but he knew he had to investigate. He approached the cabin cautiously, the floorboards creaking ominously under his weight as he stepped onto the porch. The door was slightly ajar, and he pushed it open with the barrel of his gun. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay. The moonlight filtered through the broken windows, casting ghostly beams across the room. As he moved inside, the temperature seemed to drop even further. His breath fogged in the air as he swept the room with his flashlight. Old, broken furniture lay scattered around, and the walls were covered in strange symbols, scratched deeply into the wood. In the corner of the room, he noticed a small trapdoor. It was partially open, and a faint light glowed from beneath. Steeling himself, Sam approached and pulled the door open fully, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. The growling returned, louder and more menacing, echoing up from below. Sam took a deep breath and descended the stairs, each step feeling like a step closer to something terrible. At the bottom, he found himself in a small, dank cellar. The walls were lined with more of the strange symbols, and in the center of the room stood a stone altar, covered in dark stains. He felt a presence behind him and spun around, but there was nothing there. The growling had stopped, replaced by a whispering that seemed to come from all around him. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, until he could make out the words, "Leave this place." Sam backed away slowly, his flashlight flickering, as if it was struggling to stay on. He felt something brush against his arm and turned, finding himself face to face with a shadowy figure. The figure's eyes glowed red, and its mouth twisted into a sinister grin. Before he could react, the figure lunged at him. Sam fired his gun, the noise deafening in the confined space. The figure dissipated into smoke, but the whispers grew even louder, more frantic. He turned and ran up the stairs, desperate to escape the cabin and whatever malevolent force inhabited it, bursting out into the clearing. He didn't stop running until he reached his patrol car. He jumped in, locking the doors and radioing for backup. His hands trembled as he spoke, but he knew he had to report what he had seen. When backup arrived, they found Sam sitting in his car, pale and shaken. Together they returned to the cabin, but there was no sign of the figure or the strange symbols. The cellar was empty, and the altar was gone. The only evidence of Sam's encounter was the bullet hole in the cellar wall. The next day, Sam resigned from the force, unable to shake the terror he had experienced. He moved away from Pineville, hoping to leave the nightmare behind. But the townspeople never forgot his story, and the legend of the Watcher in the woods grew even stronger. To this day, no one dares to enter the forest after dark, for fear of encountering the vengeful spirit that haunts the old cabin. And every October, on the anniversary of Sam's encounter, strange noises can be heard coming from the forest, a chilling reminder that some legends are rooted in truth.